Hey everyone, I'm Kevin with Victory 4x4. In this video, we're going to be installing our transfer case skid for the 2022 Toyota Tundra. So the first thing you'll need to do before our skid can be installed is remove this small stamped sheet metal skid here from the factory transfer case. For that, you'll just need a 12mm socket or wrench to remove the 4 hex bolts holding that in place, 2 on the rear, 2 on the front. With that out of the way, we can begin getting our TK skid up into place. Now, if you're already running our transmission skid, or if you're installing this full skid system and have at least watched that video, you're going to be somewhat familiar with the spacer plates that we installed above the transmission skid before it went in. Now, since this TK skid is going to sit above that transmission skid, you're actually going to want to move these to the top of the TK skid as it goes into place. So if you've ordered our full skid system, or at least the transmission and transfer case set, you're going to wind up with 2 sets of these. Go ahead and discard one, as you'll only be installing one setup here between the skids and the cross member. So with those spacers in place, I've jacked the TK skid up here. I've also removed the rear mounting bolts from our pre-installed transmission skid. And now I'm just going to slide this forward and begin lining up these slotted holes. Now once you get everything lined up, you'll be installing the 1/2-inch carriage bolts along with a washer and a locking nut over the top to secure these in place. Now the trans skid and the TK skid use the same hardware in this location, so you will have an extra set of these bolts. Go ahead and just discard the additional set. Now once you have the hardware installed on both sides, the next step will be just to center this up, as you should be able to slide it left to right in those slots. Just make sure the edges are flush here between the T-case and trans skids, and then grab a 3/4 wrench to reach over the top and tighten up that nut. Once you have that hardware started on both sides, just grab a 3/4 wrench, and reaching over the top of here, you should be able to tighten that up. Now with the front of the skid secure, you're going to need to temporarily install the rear mounting bracket. Then using it as a guide out here on the frame, we'll mark and drill a set of holes. So to get this in, simply slide it up over the back flange of the skid here, and then you'll again temporarily install the 1/2-inch button head bolts with flange nuts to hold it in place. So once you have both bolts started, you'll want to pull this out toward the frame of the vehicle, and then with a 5/16 hex, just lightly tighten these up for now to hold this in that location. Once you have that out tight and lined up to the frame, you can use a silver Sharpie, or if you don't have something like this, just before you put that bracket in place, put some blue painter's tape or something there so you have something to mark against with a black Sharpie or a pen. And then you're just going to trace these slots out to identify and mark your hole drilling locations. Once you've done that, just go ahead and loosen this hardware back up and temporarily remove this bracket. So at each of these hole locations, what you're going to be doing is drilling them out to 7/16. That hole size is going to accept the 1/2-inch self-threading bolts that we provide. So we're going to start by center punching all of these locations, just centered on each slot. Now there's obviously several different ways that you can drill a hole, either using a conventional twist drill or a step style bit like I have here. We found that these work pretty well when drilling through these frames. If you're using the conventional style bits, just make sure to start small using a pilot hole and work your way up in a few different sizes to get to that 7/16 hole diameter. After you finish drilling the 3 holes in the frame, you can then reinstall this rear mounting bracket. So after you have all those holes drilled, you can take the 1/2-inch self-threading bolts from your hardware pack. You'll then need an impact and a 3/4 socket. and you can run these into place. Now with each one, I'm gonna run it pretty much all the way in and then just back it out a couple threads. And that way I have some added compliance when doing the next bolt. Now when you're doing this inside hole here on this vertical flange, things do get a little tight to the exhaust. So if you have a compact impact like I have here, that works pretty well. If not, you may benefit from using a tap and die set, getting your 1/2 inch tap and physically tapping this hole by hand and then installing your bolt. Now with all of your hardware started, you can come back, tighten the bottom ones first to pull this up, then tighten that side bolt and come back and tighten your 1/2 inch button head hardware here. Then just to play it safe, you can come back and double check that your front mounting hardware is tight to finish things up. Now if you have any questions about this skid install or any other product from Victory 4x4, feel free to reach out to us. You can send us an email at info@victory4x4.com or give us a call at 269-459-8447.